everybody, and welcome to Gerda Steiner Designs. We are going to be using some Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers today, along with some watercolor paper and a digital image. Come and join me. So today we're going to be using this freebie. Yes, I said freebie. This is the Easter Bunnies digital stamp. And I've cut it out of a smooth Bristol white watercolor cardstock because we're going to be using a watercolor based medium today. So I've just put some tape over my image to make sure that it's not copied. I've cut two exactly the same panel out of the same paper. And first we're going to do our background. So we're going to use our blank one here. So we're going to start our background with a base coat of Sweet 16. And I'm going to be pretty generous at applying this to my background. And take it all the way out to the edges. So now we're going to use our stencil here by Catherine Pooler called Twisted Sunburst, and we're going to use some pixie dust ink. So I'm going to start by just adding a soft layer, and we're going to build the color up. I've tacked down my stencil just using a low tack tape. And I'm just using circular motions just to make sure that I get into all the cracks and crevices of my stencil. And so that I get nice even application of my ink as well. So the more ink you put on, obviously, the more vibrant your stencil image. So you can go as thick with the ink as you want. It's completely up to you. And I'm thinking that's probably good. Do the last little edges there. I think I'll concentrate just a touch more towards the center. There we go. Okay, and let's do our reveal. There we go. Perfect. Now we'll get working on our bunnies. So we're going to start with the grass on the bottom of our image, and Zig markers are water-based, so they'll act just like watercolor. So I'm not even being particular about getting a good even coverage. This is not like Copic markers. We're going to use a little touch of water to help us blend here. And again, this is watercolor paper, so it is designed to take a little bit more water, say, than your average cardstock. I just use some pale green to get kind of a base. And I am just going to flick in a little bit of the darker green, and this one is actually called light green. So, I'm not being accurate or particular. I'm literally just kind of pouncing in a little bit of color, and then we're going to blend it with our watercolor brush. And this is a Grumbacher size 4 round brush, and I'm just gonna soften my lines. I'm going to leave a little bit of the streakiness in just to mimic the texture of our grass, because that just looks super cute. And I'm just playing around with the water in my brush. If you have too much water, you can just dab it off on a paper towel. I want this to appear whimsical, so it doesn't have to be perfect. This will most likely go to one of my nephews because they like little critters. All right, there's our grass, and I'm just going to let it dry. And then we're going to go on to something that isn't touching the grass. That's really, really important. So we're going to go on to coloring in our bunnies. So we'll start with the guy on the right here. Let's bring in just a touch closer here. And I'm going to bring in a gray. I'm going to start with, this one's gray tint. So for this, I am going to be a little bit more exact. I'm going to put in a little bit more of our color, kind of where the shadows might be in our image. And then we're going to draw that color back into the image to lighten it and to get rid of that line, so to speak, there. So just putting in our hints of color, and of course you can come back and darken it if you need to. That's the beauty of watercolor. You can layer and layer and layer upon layer. I am being a little loose with my lines. I'll draw in a little bit of the arch around the nose of our little bunny. He's so cute. All right, there's our base. Once again, we're going to use our watercolor brush. I am going to take a little bit of the water off by dabbing it on my paper towel, and then we're just going to literally touch our brush to that ink and pull it out and away. Now, this watercolor paper did fit through my printer. This is a digital image once again. You will have to test your own printer at home, and you will also have to test your ink with water-based paints. So be aware, do some testing first so that you know what's going to happen when you add water to an image. Okay? Every printer is so different. So give it a test before you decide on a finished project. Here we go. Isn't he cute? So the shading is starting to develop. You can go in and add more. I think that looks pretty good, actually. I want him to be a lighter, softer color, so that works for me. He's still got some highlights, and that's awesome. I am going to go and grab myself a little pink because I do want to add a little pinkness to the inside of his ears and also his nose. Now his nose I'm going to do full color with just the brush. This is pale pink, and you know what? I think we can actually go in and apply it to his ears too. I'll go in and soften it just a touch with my water brush, dabbing off a little bit of my water just so that it's not too wet. There we go. Just soften it into his ears. I won't worry about his nose. All right, so we're going to leave him to dry, and let's do our other bunny. Now to add interest, we are going to use a different color. That way we know they're two different bunnies. It just makes it cuter too. Maybe we'll go for a brown. So this color is beige. And again, we are going to go into that bunny rabbit in the areas of where we want shade. Now we're going to work on our little Easter egg. Now our background is purple, so let's use a complementary color, and the complementary color to purple is yellow. So I'm going to start with a lemon yellow, and we're going to do the base of the egg. So I'm going to start by giving it a good amount of the lemon yellow as our base. Not being perfect, we're going to use water to blend. So I'm just getting ink on it. Okay. All right, so our lemon yellow is the base. Then we're going to add in a little bit deeper yellow, slightly orange to get our shadows in. And we're just going to put it around the edges. So this is yellow. And it's got a little bit more orangey tint. So I'm just going to put it in the spots where there might be some shadow. So I'm assuming kind of the light's coming towards the front of the egg. So there'd just be a little bit of shadow down both sides. Like I said, you can do whatever your heart desires. This is supposed to be fun and not accurate. Do what makes you happy. So again, I've got a fairly dry brush, very limited water. I'm just going to soften my lemon yellow just a bit. Now, my ink, for whatever reason, doesn't like this light of shade, but I'm okay with it blending in. It just adds something to my painting. And you know what? It's a homemade card. If you're going to look at it and go, oh my God, look, her ink ran. Really? Then maybe you shouldn't have been the recipient. So I'm just softening all those yellow lines. I am going to start to go into that darker yellow and draw it out to get that shadowed effect. Watercolor is supposed to be loose and free anyway. So, you know what? It is what it is. There we go. Just finishing up, blending out that brighter yellow into our lemon. There we go. There we go. And then I'm going to do the spots all different colors to mimic the colors I have in my background paper, which I've already pre-picked out. So I'm going to come in with this Parisian green. And I'm just going to make kind of C's inside my polka dots, and not perfectly. I'm going to pick a few of the speckles. And then we're going to bring in a nice orange. Once again, I'm just going to go in with a C shape. There we go. I'm going to come in with a purple. This one is light violet to match our background and pull our background color into our Easter egg. And I'm going to pull in just a touch of green. So I'm going to go back to the light green, the same green that we used for our grass. And just a few of those here. I'm going to go back and do this one actually, I think I'll do it a Parisian green. There we go. And then I'm going to soften them all with some water. Alrighty. I want to give these guys a little bit more texture, so I've brought in my polychromos pencils, and we're going to add some fur. Now, you want a really nice fine point. This one actually could even be sharper. I have a pencil sharpener here that can sharpen different points, so I like to sharpen a 5 if I can. So I'm going to actually add a soft bit of color just to darken the edges to my line, just to integrate a little bit of color first, smooth it out. I can add a little bit of color as well to the edges there. This will just help soften, make a more subtle color into our bunny. So I'll go back to the ear in a second. So you want to, you have to almost practice on a piece of paper. So nice light flick marks, go whichever direction you like to, either pulling or going away from you, whatever kind of works for you. Start off with a really light pressure, because you can always go in and add more or add darker. So, and I'm not worried about that because I'm going to cut out that background. And you can make your hairs, go any direction you want. Go with the lines on the bunny's face. And just put them wherever you feel comfortable. Try overlapping them as well. Because, I mean, you and I both know, because we both have hair on our head, that hairs overlap. So just have fun. Sometimes they're going to be so subtle you can barely even notice them. And that's fine. And then I'll come back to and do that ear later. And then I'm going in a little deeper color here. And I can go in and kind of like add those shadow hairs. You know how when you have a shadow, you're going to have darker tones on the outside. So I'm going to take this darker chestnutty color of brown and do some hairs around the edge of my bunny's head to give a shadow color. You could even go in and find a gray marker that matches the tone of your ink, and that would look really good too, to blend in that color of ink into the color of your bunny. That would look great. So just go in and play. They don't have to be dark and they don't have to be truly visible. Make them nice and subtle, because this is very nice and subtle. So I'm just going to add hairs just to this bunny. I kind of like the way this one turned out, so I'm not going to add any hairs to him. I'm just going to add some hair to the brown bunny. And then I'm going to go and cut this out and we'll assemble our card. So I've got our card base ready. We've got some cute little Easter egg pattern paper, and our background is already stuck down. And I have put some 3D foam adhesive on the back of our cutout image. I did decide to leave a white line around my image. No particular reason, just thought it would be cute on this and make it stand out from our kind of rays of our purple rays background there. I've put a really good amount of foam tape across the back just to make sure that it doesn't collapse in the mail. And taking off all the backer paper. Oop. There we go. And then I'm just going to line it up. And this is the reason why I cut the background and the image from the same die. This allows us to literally puzzle piece it right back into its corners. And I also did go in with a darker charcoal-y colored pencil crayon and darkened up the eyes just to make them pop a little bit more. And there is our sweet little Easter bunnies card. You could very easily put a sentiment on the outside, but I'm going to leave it blank this time. And there we go. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you've learned something, and I'd love to hear from you in the comment section. Join me again next time. Bye, guys.